discussion that's improving supply chain efficiency through next gen technologies. I would like to call upon Mr. Nimish Desai, the Director for Supply Chain Management for Infor India Subcontinent. Please come on board, sir. I would like to call upon Mr. Tankeshwar Baishya, the Director Supply Chain Management for PepsiCo India Holdings. Please come on board, sir. Mr. Rakesh Shah, Director Supply Network Operations and Strategic Dealer Management for Merck Pharma. Mr. Jasdeep Sethi, the CEO for TCI Supply Chain Solutions. Mr. Somit Mukherjee, Head Procurement for Dabur India. All right, I would like to hand over this panel discussion to Mr. Desai. Please take it.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody. We have a little bit of challenge in the sense that, we are going to talk about the supply chain efficiency and the next generation supply chain. OTIF is a big issue that, on time, full, and the problem is that we are running late by 1 hour. So we will try to talk about, what next generation technologies we take into consideration. And I have with me the eminent panel of eminent experts from different companies. As you all are from the field of industry and working in your different environments, you would be knowing that as we evolve into the more unified, fast, technologically enabled, everybody has kind of mobile devices, that kind of a world. We have, unlike earlier times when the FMCG and pharma sector, which we are dealing in today's session right now, is not dealing with only the traditional channel of selling, through the CFAs and dealers to going to the market. They have to deal with the modern retail, they have to deal with the multi-channel retail. All the variabilities have increased, while the natural disasters and problems and, roadblocks and the agitations are continuing there. And that frequency has probably not increased. Our knowledge about it has increased because of the 24-hour television and internet and all that connectivity. But the expectations from the people of getting everything available has increased, and therefore the more and more pressure on the the availability, the performance of the supply chain, and the competitive aspect of that because of that reason. So how technology can help in making the supply chain efficient, and deliver the efficiency, right time, every time, right order, that kind of a thing. That's what the challenge which we are going to discuss today. and with my colleagues. Now, my first, we have set of people with me. We have Rajesh Shah from the pharmaceutical sector. We have Sankeshwar Paisha, and we have Somit from the FMCG company, food and beverage and FMCG company, and we have Mr. Jasjit Sethi from the service provider. He is the CEO of the PCI supply chain. So we have a diverse point of view, and what I would like is that I would like to start with what do my colleagues see as the challenges of the supply chain in the pharma and the FMCG sector, in times to come, as we look forward as it is evolving to come. And I would request Rajesh to delve on some of the challenges which they are facing.
Yeah, good afternoon, friends. In terms of pharmaceutical challenges, the technology and infrastructure front, a lot of challenges are there. We can elaborate a lot. In operations, there are a lot of challenges. In IT sector, or you can say technical aspect, also a lot of challenges. In terms of government interference, a lot of challenges are there. And going forward in the next generation, it can be covered one by one. In terms of technology and infrastructure, yes, you can say in manufacturing, you can say automation, or in terms of e-buying, or we may say it is a logistic challenges, as well as road, rail and air logistic challenges are also there. In operation, it is a quality, untapped, you can say rural market, collaboration with the internal customer as well as our external customers, and replenishment model as far as distribution model is concerned. So these are the core challenges in operations. In IT sector, yes, many pharmaceutical companies are using the SAP, but going forward, the APO is a key challenge for the coming year. So we need to, I think, collaborate with the SAP, and we need to introduce as a APO going forward if suppose really we want to go in a IT mode. As far as government is concerned, the GST is again we are searching, and I think it will come soon, the GST model. In FDA, you can say more stringent FDA norms are there now going forward, and legal claim end-to-end service is also a key challenge for all pharmaceutical companies. Thank you.
Yeah, I would request Sankeshwar Paisha to throw some light on what kind of challenges, especially with the demand variability because of the seasonalities as well as the geographic challenges. What kind of challenges in terms of S&OP process as well as in terms of execution of the supply chain. The food company or a food and beverages company kind of a face.
Sure. So, and I see actually the things are very, very generic in nature. It's not specific to foods and beverages alone. It would actually apply to pharmaceutical as well as also to other FMCGs.
Exactly.
So one of the biggest challenge probably in supply chain today is the demand variability, and how do we kind of forecast right? Okay, because the forecasting right has got to do with ultimately the profitability of the organization. If you're not able to do right forecasting, that you end up with a lot of expiries. You have huge inventories that will take a lot of space and cost in terms of the infrastructure that will be required. Or at the end of the day, if you are under forecasting, you will not be able to meet the customer's demand. So that's one of the challenge that we have. The second bit is more and more companies are actually innovating and coming out with newer product platforms. So as a result of that, the number of SKUs have gone up tremendously, and also people are opening up more and more manufacturing facilities in remote corners of the country. Then distribution setup is increasing. So with all these, the supply chain network is becoming very, very complex. So in a very complex network, then how do you kind of source optimally? Okay, so that's going to be another challenge, which the companies are generally facing. The third bit is also the S&OP process itself. it's kind of evolving, but how do you collaborate internally within various stakeholders within the organization, be it marketing, sales, finance for that matter, and also how do you make them accountable in the process? Because there has to be ultimately, for example, a demand plan has been generated, and that has to be kind of bossed by everyone in the organization. Okay, so how do you bring in that accountability? So in all these areas, I feel technology can, kind of help us. The other bit is also in the execution side of it, in the warehousing. The challenge is actually more to do with the traceability of products. If there are recalls that are happening in the future, then how do you kind of take care of that? Then also, at times you will see the transaction intensity is very, very high. The volumes that you have to handle is quite high. So how do you ensure the accuracy of your dispatches? And at the same time, kind of, keep your operations efficient. So these are some of the challenges which I feel, with the supply chain of a typical FMCG company is facing.
Thank you, Tanush. Thank you, sir. So I was reading while coming in the morning. I was reading two reports about the next generation supply chain because I had a task of doing this comparing of the panel of this. Then I needed to understand as to what is the next generation supply chain going to be. And one of the report which was of PricewaterhouseCoopers and another was from ARC Advisory. This report was talking about that the best-in-class companies which they surveyed, these companies, they do set of things. Please Google that, and that is a good report for a general purpose knowledge. Mostly it is relating to the developed world. It talks about the emerging markets also. Now this is a new terminology. Now nobody calls it as a developing world. It's all called emerging market. But one other important thing which I noticed is that they said that these companies which are excelling in their supply chain as the evolving trend, about 70% of them, while some of these areas like S&OP and some of the processes they keep very much in-house, but they judiciously and strategically outsource a lot of supply chain areas. 70% of the companies, 70% of their supply chain is outsourced, and 50% of their manufacturing is outsourced. So, we have somebody who has seen it all for several years. Jasjeet is, in the business of providing services. So they also use IT for themselves or technology per se. I'm not saying that only information technology, but technology per se. But they provide a lot of services to all this spectrum of FMCG companies, pharma companies, and beyond the FMCG companies. So I would request Jasjeet to tell few challenges which are left out. But you can throw more light on.
Thank you, Nimish. Afternoon, everybody. The topic today is to do with supply chain efficiency through next generation technology. So, why talking about technology for efficiency today is because the speed of activity, whatever we are doing, the speed of markets, everything has gone up to a large extent. That today you would be challenged to do it with technology. At a point in time, maybe 10 years ago, you could have an email in your office to desktop and see it in the evening. You would have a few mails. Now everybody would be carrying a smart device to see the emails. They can't survive without 1 hour. If no mails coming for 1 hour, you feel something is wrong somewhere. We are so connected today. And the challenge which I feel today is basically the lack of convergence. Convergence I would define as that you have a device, let us say a GPS. That is in isolation, seeing the visibility of any mobile asset. And you have an ERP somewhere else. They're not linked together. So they're not smart enough to give you the right kind of feedback of what shipment is going to be delayed or what is the ETA. So that linkage is not there. You have a delivery boy out in the field doing a delivery. He doesn't have a right smart tablet which is giving the data that now the shipment has been delivered. Some companies they have, some do not. So in our world of supply chain, we have these handheld terminals they use in the warehouses. They are linked to a local static terminal, not through the net, because the data flow is very high and you would require a very high level of broadband to have it web-based. So you have a transaction going to a local server in the warehouse, then that linking to a handheld there. Then we have a GPS, as I mentioned earlier, these tablets. We also have yet to have actually onboard navigation on the truck. The trucks are tracked remotely on GPS, but they don't have onboard navigation. They do not know themselves where they are, the shortest route for themselves. They still rely on ask and direction, because that device is slightly bit more expensive. The first part would be that these get converged into some kind of a common platform, so it's more intelligent. You don't require somebody else to make a report in Excel and then you feed into your ERP and know what is happening. So that is the first part. The second part is about being connected. As a supply chain provider, we work with both suppliers and as well as manufacturers and dealers as well. So we have to have visibility of both the sides for their ERP. Now there's a very good ERP the supplier is working on and very good ERP the customer is working on, but they're not linked together, and we are on third ERP. So if I were to send somebody an email in English and replies back to me in Urdu, I would be lost. But today our systems are like that. They are talking to each other. So despite having systems, the best homegrown systems and best outsourced ones, the bolt-on is not good enough for them to talk. So every time we have to pick up the phone or do a WhatsApp or see a mail of what is happening. So that second part is being connected to a common platform. I will not go to a solutions right now. These are things which I feel are the major areas, and I'll leave it to my next colleague.
Soumen, you can throw some light from the sourcing point of view and other areas.
Yeah, thanks, Nimish. And as a last panelist, probably I'll just, I will not discuss much about technology, but I'll discuss about the challenges of the procurement aspect and what procurement seeks from the overall supply chain, or what challenges draws from the supply chain, because in the end, it must deliver. So, this delivery and value being the two questions in front of an organization in terms of both top line and bottom line, we must now understand, and this I talk more from an FMCG point of view, and part of it is my experience from my organization, but also what I observed elsewhere, is that the play of external factors is very heavy on procurement. You don't know what a monsoon is going to be or what the battle in Iraq is going to hold out. And you have to respond. The other things there can be certain environmental things, and the last panel was discussing in terms of, what are you doing and how are you managing the environment around you in terms of its responsibility. Otherwise, and this is a very big aspect which has come in front of the shareholders of the company. You must respond in terms of what kind of governance you have in your organization. That's one. Other than that, being 24-hour market, the focus of supply chain has greatly increased or needs to greatly increase in terms of its backroom. Not only the front room focus in terms of what you are delivering to your consumer, also to ensure profitability or a seamless supply chain by having extremely good demand planning. So that is a huge that requires a huge leap forward. Companies have done very well. There are technological aspects or answers through APO, etc. But here too, the challenges have increased multifold. That's one. The overall supply chain aspect program, as we see it, A is planning and B is distribution. Planning, we discussed just now, but apart from that, there is logistics and then there is warehousing. In terms of warehousing, we know that the cost per square feet, as we put it, near the consumption centers is increasing like anything. So how do we meet that challenge? That is one very big thing in terms of bottom line. Now, just to give one number, is that in a typical FMCG spend, diversified spend, not just one commodity. Typically, organizations have many products, and they are diversified FMCG. Up to about 7% of the total material cost could be in terms of its logistics spend totally, which is basically the freight that they incur in reaching materials or the cost in warehousing. That's very substantial. And especially when looked upon from the aspect that in our country, especially in the last 6 or 7 years, the inflation that we see typically has been about 10%. You see, that kind of inflation we've seen. So this number of 7% is very huge, much larger than many other countries who have some kind of such equivalent supply chains. And apart from that, one big challenge that supply chain faces is to help organizations decide whether to make or to buy. So here comes outsourcing in terms of you don't need to manufacture everything. So what needs to be decided is in terms of the cost, also the speed of response. sometimes the speed of response might entail cost, but we need to see it in context of the value. So that is one aspect that is there. Apart from that, the need to respond to those micro needs of the market in terms of the top line, needing to meet the top line, and the response time has become extremely important. And this, coupled with the aspect of the changes in price, cost, etc., decision making, is very big. Analysts now track cost as much as they do the top line. So that's so important. If you take up any report of any global analyst organization, if you see our, many of the companies, many of the organizations here would be listed. So they spend as much time now on how they are doing, how efficient they are in terms of their cost management, in terms of the value that they're delivering. So this becomes very important. In terms of the responses and the next generation technologies, it could be in terms of cloud-based responses, in terms of what we call as e-procurement. And within e-procurement is not a new concept. It's a concept that has been there in our country for the last at least a decade or so. What is the next step forward? That is one big challenge, because even technology gets dated, things change, and both sides of the table, these service providers as well, they face this challenge of escalations constantly, the life of a contract, etc., and therefore the product pricing in the end. So this is what I would put as a challenge as we see it from our part.
Yeah, thank you, Sumit. Now we turn to, so we have understood the challenges. Now we turn to some of the solutions, or some of the solutions our panelists, would suggest as to could be the answers to the challenges which the FMCG and pharma sector faces from the technology standpoint, so that that the next we are using already, a lot of people are using the technology. We all have some computer systems, and we all have the ERP systems. I represent a software provider, and therefore I would request that don't talk only about one particular software, because I sell competing solutions. The warehousing and transportation and ERP system or planning system, the competing system. What I'm going to ask my panelists, friends, colleagues to share with us the ideas as to where in the planning cycle or in the execution cycle, specifically, which are the technologies they see. I'm not talking about only mostly it is relating to the information technologies, but somewhere it is enabled by some devices also, like Judges has talked about is that, nowadays things are converging. You don't talk of a software unless there is a device to make it use. So I would request, Tankeshwar to throw light on some of these solutions and, how to capitalize on them.
Yes, sir. So actually I touched upon now on the demand challenges that we have. I also touched upon the supply planning, complexity part of it. And I also talked about, the traceability, batch management, etc. in the execution side of it in the warehouse. So I don't know whether these are next gen technology or, these are already available, and how much of that has already been utilized by the industry. However, there is still a lot kind of to do in that. So as far as demand challenges are concerned, I think as we see, many organizations are right now actually not in a position to capture the real market demand. Okay, so first and foremost is how do we kind of utilize technology, to capture the demand that is there in the market. Okay, the real customer demand. When I say, because right now what happens is many a time you'll find our customers calling up the the order management cell or the warehouse and ask for, okay, what is available, and then place the order. Whereas we should actually be shifting out of that and then going into a scenario wherein you place his demand, and then after that you will see, okay, what is available, what is not available, and then capture that data through. And once you have captured the data, that is what it actually the real demand is. So that can be done through certain technological interventions, such as you can maybe have a customer portal where the customer can log in himself, and then you have a catalog of products there with prices and all, where you can ask the customer to put his order. So thereby you are actually capturing the real demand. Similarly, you can also get into auto order generation for a trade for your trade partners, as well as also for the big retail partners who are there. So wherein you capture their daily closing stocks that they have, and then set up your inventory norms with them and generate auto orders. And those orders are nothing but the real demand which is there in the market actually. So which is nothing but generally it's called the VMI, vendor managed inventory. So that's on the demand planning side. So when you are capturing the real demand, then you can use that real demand data for generating a statistical forecast. So which will be much more realistic than generating basis the orders that you have processed actually, which is not a real part of it. The other thing I touched upon was the SNOP process pathway, wherein you generate a consensus amongst all the stakeholders. But how do you make them accountable? Because you'll always see that there is a tendency of the sales force to always over forecast, whereas supply chain being there as a neutral spectator or as a neutral stakeholder, he used to actually kind of balance both the expectations of the sales side and as well as on the operation side, so that your costs and other things are actually taken care of. So there, to bring in accountability, what we have also seen that there are certain SNOP platforms which have come up in the recent times. So where you can the supply chain can come out with a baselining forecast, and then that can actually be run through various stakeholders, like it can go to marketing for their value add, then it can go to sales for their value add, and finally it can come to a forum where everyone is together and can see the number, what exactly is it coming up, and test out the differences there, and finally you kind of agree upon and that this is the forecast that you would go by. So in the process, what you are doing is actually you are capturing what everyone is saying, and you also have sign off, and thereby you are ensuring that okay, people actually are you are holding people accountable in the process. So that is another way of kind of using technology for mitigating challenge. The other part I said was about complexity. So most of the companies are adding newer products, and the distribution which is going up. They are opening new warehouses, newer manufacturing setup. So sourcing, basically sourcing of finished product itself is a very complex task by itself. So on a monthly basis. So for that again, there are technologies available which would balance your demand and supply, and at the same time, it will also optimize the low cost manufacturing sources. So it will actually optimize both cost as well as at the same time fulfill your demand. In a very complex scenario. So that's nothing but the network modeling and network planning that you can do by using network software. And on the warehousing and transportation side, I touched upon on the challenges of traceability and batch management. See, traditionally, if you see until recently, the companies were small in size, volumes were not very high. So we used to manage warehouses of 10,000 square feet, 20,000 square feet. As long as it is 10,000, 20,000, it's very easy to manage it manually. You know what is what, and in which corner of the warehouse you have kept what. So the moment you become 1 lakh square feet, 2 lakh square feet, then and which actually is the reality now. So it's impossible for manually managing that. So what will happen is in the process you will end up making a lot of mistakes. So leave aside the batch management and the traceability part of it. So there comes the technological solution of barcoding, WMS. So combined it. So WMS obviously will give you the location where you have kept, and it will actually guide people to go there and then put it and also pick up stock. But at the same time, it's not a foolproof system, because it does not stop you from picking up from a wrong location or a wrong batch. So there comes the barcoding. So barcoding actually will ensure that you are not even allowed to pick up a wrong batch or from a wrong location. So thereby the complete system gets foolproof. So I feel these are the technologies which actually can be used for mitigating some of the challenges which the companies are facing at this point of time.
Thanks a lot for giving us a broader spectrum of areas where we can use the technology to drive the next generation supply chain. Rajesh, your perspective, any additional thoughts on the specifics of the pharmaceutical?
Yeah, I think we have touched many aspects in the supply chain aspect, especially in technology and infrastructure. As we know that India already, I think, is progressing in logistic part, and road condition is much better than, I think, good as compared to before 10 years. And especially this manufacturing automation, I think a lot of technology now is there in the industry. And going forward, I think much more technology will be there. Without touching the human intervention, I think product will be out. You can say it will be there in the cheaper. So that technology we are anticipating going forward. As far as IT is concerned, that SAP majority pharmaceutical companies are operating in SAP, and some of the major pharmaceutical companies have already introduced the EPO, and some of the line of operating the EPO, and they are in progress of the introducing the EPO. So these are the, I think, few in terms of pharmaceutical, you can say aspects coming for example.
So, you see, we have some technological solutions, as the other two colleagues also we talked about that. From the sourcing to the supply chain planning process, the demand planning process, and S&OP process, as well as the execution of supply chain. And Rajesh has touched upon a very important area, that one of the major supply chain element which we generally talk about, inbound and outbound. We do not talk about the conversion part, which is itself also part of manufacturing, is a part of supply chain itself. It's a major element of supply chain. And he talked about very good about getting your ERPs and the planning systems and execution systems would be not very useful. Why? The warehousing systems, as today they have evolved, they have become very efficient and useful, because they take help of the handheld devices and barcodes and things like that. And as Jasjeet pointed out, that some of the technologies, some of the people have deployed in the track and trace mechanism is working out, because they track the data at the source. The different challenges are different. Now, I would request Jasjeet to throw some light upon some of these technological solutions, and especially the challenges relating to implementing them. What are the issues, which need to be tackled so that, they are successful?
Thanks, Nimish. I think saying a bit more on the automation part, which was touched upon regarding barcoding, and also about, I think you mentioned about the cost of warehousing being higher near the consumption centers. So when do you make a decision that you can go vertical now? When will rack be beneficial compared to just being horizontal? When do you think that barcoding starts kicking in? And when do you think that these costs of these automations are having a better ROI than deploying people on the job? What we have seen is the harder parts of this chain. What we have seen that in the last 5 years, you had, as somebody mentioned about inflation, the minimum wages have gone up by almost 100%. They have doubled. And that's here to stay, because even now, disparity between the working class and others is very high. So these wages should go up, and they will go up. Having said that, do we become more costly, or do we increase productivity? The word productivity is heard mostly in the plant. It is not heard very much in supply chain, in warehousing. It's starting to be heard now. And going forward, technology which will enable better productivity per man is something which is coming in. So, in our sense, that if you want to go vertical, we have to go minimum 5 high. Below that, the land and sea ratio doesn't work out. Minimum 5 high. If the rental cost, let's say, is rupees 12, then it has to go high. I'm just giving some numbers, ballpark numbers. It's 20, go high. If you go high, 8 high, wonderful for you. Barcoding, it justifies even at a very low level, because barcoding eliminates mistakes. By putting a barcode scanner end of a person's hand, you become a robot which he can't make a mistake. And who wouldn't want that? A human robot who doesn't make any mistakes. So these are hard part of technology which we're working in. Another part of integration of these technologies with the transportation bit is the palletization. Our country is woefully lacking behind palletization on the highway because there is not a sync between the width of the truck and the pallet. So you have a vertical warehouse, you are storing pallets. When the material has to go out, you depalletize it, head load. Which is the other end, he unloads by head load, again palletizes it. Again, it's a Muda activity, a waste activity. What you can do, somebody explained, I think, session before us in Coca-Cola, that a truck is unloaded in 40 minutes or 40 minutes loaded. It's because of complete palletization. 8 trips of a forklift and the thing is done and the truck can move off. So these part of the hardcore integrations are also important along with the software aspect, what Nimish was referring to. I didn't digress, I hope.
No, you are touching upon a very important part of the technology.
So I'll come back to the topic of your choice. In terms of convergence, things have changed a lot in the last few years, and the biggest change is the cloud. Earlier, when you would buy a laptop or anything, you would say you want a 250 GB hard disk or 500. Memory was everything. Today, that memory is out there in the cloud somewhere, and if you have memory on your hard drive only, then you can't have other devices connecting to it. So the cloud is one convergence platform where your handheld, your mobile device, your tab, everything can connect to that and have real-time information at all the time for everyone. Earlier, it was only in your system, for everyone. So that is something which has happened. And if you see in the last few years, we have the launch of the cloud, the Apple Cloud, which enables you to start a mail on one device and on another. You have the Google Chromebook, which has got almost no hard drive. You just link onto the web, the data is lying over there. And that is so convenient. The only gap there has been is that technology other parts, 3G and 4G speeds haven't caught up yet. They will. And that price is also falling. The price of data is also falling. When that happens, then convergence becomes a reality. And then it pays for itself because everybody, all the stakeholders can see that. And what is the best part of supply chain in the future? That's a glass pipeline. A glass pipeline is something where everybody can view their part all the time. So that is what we are coming to in terms of convergence. Second part is connectivity. Despite being the hotbed of IT, India, and we having so many software companies, we are still behind in IT in some way. We are good in terms of customized software. We are not good in packaged software. I'll be killed by Nimesh for saying so, but in a country where you have got good programmers, maybe it does make sense sometimes to customize it. Because you don't have to buy, such expensive software and they pay so much annual price. Of course, you don't charge that, but other people do. So,
so that's the industry now. I don't want to defend that.
Yeah. So, but having all that different software, even if you've got SAP, Oracle, Infor, other companies, how they talk to each other. I think that part is mainly a connectivity, which is basically integrators. So there's a need of integrators who would take data from A, give it to B, take from B, give it to A. In the morning, in the main hall, people are talking about collaboration. This data exchange can't take place because of trust not being there. Trust not being there because the data coming in from someone else's device is without a form, without validation. And you don't want it to come into your system and corrupt your data. So there are indicators for that, and there are two forms of integration. The very simple one to start right now is EDI. EDI is that you give a certain file, certain protocol, somebody else, he accepts it in a separate table, validates it, and then inserts into his system. So that thing can start right away. In EDI, you have got something like Covisint. Most of the auto industry works on that. They work on that kind of EDI. The second and larger part is data synchronization. That is something which still takes time because of the different networks being involved there. But EDI part can happen. And we feel that these things will enable both convergence and connectivity to a large extent. There are also more challenges tomorrow. And the biggest challenge will be because of the data being in the cloud, data security. How do you ensure that your data is not purged or listed by somebody else? So those are the challenges which are coming up. And a bigger challenge now for us is also the compliances part. That the software, etc., will have to ensure that they are also ensuring compliance. Because people are not relying on any book or anything else, relying on the system to tell them right things. So
in terms of materials, has not been a bad word because of rising prices. But as things stabilize, as interest rates go up, Typically, we've been in a lower interest rate regime in the past as compared to the inflation. As these things balance, the extent will come back on inventory, the efficiency of the inventory, basically, and the right thing at the, keeping the right thing at the right place. And for that, just in time will come in, and thereby GPS and the location of the vehicle, etc., will become very important. Obviously, the service provider, the person who brings in the material, etc., is more educated. He is more aware, and he is aware of the value of the time. You see, even the downtime of the vehicle. So that takes off. The other end, the front end, many organizations now have given tablets to their people who sell in order to track their stocks as well as capture their orders in real time. So which means reduction of inventory, which has an MRP on it, the costly inventory. Talking of the inventory standards, typically it is observed that up to about 8 to 10% of the total annual cost of an organization will be perpetually kept in inventory. This actually is likely to reduce by 1 or 2%, which means it will release a working capital of up to let us say 2%, which on a 5,000 crore or a 7,000 crore organization could amount to nearly 25 to 50 crores, depending upon what item or what business you are in. So that's one thing. In terms of capturing the data on the ground rather than filling up a form and the sales order or the kind of targets that we have, it could mean increase in revenue, or at least let us say capturing of the inventory, reduction of inventory of close to 75 to 80 crores more, because this is an MRP printed on it. And it also will release precious resources from manufacturing, typically. And at the manufacturing end, an efficient supply chain, more in terms of using the same line for multiple products. Typically, compared to, and as I'm just quoting from a study from the International Supply Chain Journal, is that a line now, line downtime, manufacturing line downtime is very low. It has come down to between 8 to 13% compared to 23% to 25%. Let us say 7 to 8 years back. This is very, very important, because coupled with the manufacturing line are the resources. This means that there are workmen involved. There are these input costs in terms of electricity, in terms of the other costs like power, etc., which also have come down. This is enabled by the technology which is in use in supply chain, typically. And in terms of warehousing, obviously, where big strides have been made in terms of going vertical, in terms of having a FIFO system, because many organizations use materials which are perishable in nature, typically, and we also sell products. A diversified FMCG company typically sells products which are food. So though the shelf life might be very high, everyone likes it fresh, and if it is not fresh, it might not sell. And after a point, the MRP would start getting discounted. So that is one such aspect. And in terms of capturing the cost, cloud-based solutions in terms of e-procurement, in terms of forward options or reverse options, as the case may be, and while the issues of the cloud are likely to happen in the future in terms of data integrity, etc., but there are these solutions which offer the right kind of firewalls when talking to or between systems, and also an external facing technology like an e-procurement, in which vendors can log in, vendors both in terms of materials as well as services, and they talk to your internal ERPs, whatever they might be, to the extent that the organization provides them access. So these are certain practical applications of technology as we've seen in our line.
Thank you, Sumit. Thank you for your valuable insight. Now, we, as you might have seen, that all the panels had a considerable number of panelists, and our panel is blessed only by the core experts. So I'll also add my few points which I feel appropriate, and try to sum up the distinguished colleagues have already said. One of the points which was pretty much made is that right from the very important part of the technology is the actually nuts and bolts of the technology. As Rajesh correctly said, that the data has to come, the plant automation, the data has to flow into the whatever system, and that is one of the automations, whether it is at plant level or that anyhow in the pharmaceutical sector. It is very important that you have a traceability of the batch to the entire supply chain. If you can achieve that by capturing data at source and then continuing, it will be very good. you and as Jagjit had rightly mentioned that, we are palletizing for storing and not palletizing for the entire supply chain, and that is where the problem is. So everybody has, so one of the customers I know of, I will not take the name of them, but they also are a supply chain provider, but they have a major captive customer, is a large retailer, and they are in the fashion business, fashion retailing business. So because of the earlier panel we heard Coca-Cola gentleman saying something is because of the scale they have been able to do that. Now here also you know that in the fashion industry everybody supplies in a different size of carton, and then it becomes a nightmare for the warehouse people to manage. Now these people being a large people, they have been able to push back to their suppliers to a large extent, especially in the fashion area, to supply them in a unified single type of carton, and therefore it made them a very good supply chain process. EY and KPMG have given them awards also, for their very good supply chain, and things like that, that retail part of the supply chain business. Now, either one company has a scale, or put together so many of us can have a scale, So if we all together decide, I'm talking about the industry, that if the FMCG industry and pharma industry decide that we want to have this as a standard, and then we want to push this as a standard, that the trucks should be gradually be able to do this and things like that, and then slowly the change will start happening. So that's one part of that. Another part is that, mobility and devices, as, both, I think Sankeshwar and, Jagjit has mentioned that, they have become reality of life, and they have to extend to the best tools of the ERP and the planning system and, execution systems are there. Barcode, warehousing, all these are going to go a big way in transforming the supply chain into the next generation thing. And, to use and exploit the mobility, as Somit has said, that, there is the cloud-based technologies. And so my own perspective on this entire philosophy is there that, there are going to be some things which are going to be cloud-based, and there are going to be something which are going to be on-premise. If you build a good warehouse, like all these distinguished colleagues are into the large companies and many other large companies, they build fairly big, sophisticated warehouse which is partially mechanized, and therefore it will have an integration with the conveyors and the sortation devices and the put-to-light systems and the ASRS in some cases, as and when they go for that kind of a thing. Now, obviously, a system for that will be on-premise, whereas certainly a procurement system and even warehouse management system or transport management system, some of them could be on cloud, and that can be used as a very good technology. Some of the trends which I would like to add here, apart from the summing up this part, is that there are trends a lot of trend is coming in a social business. We are talking about that we have to call up somebody, we have to send an email, we have to do a lot of WhatsApp and things like that. Now there is a trail which is happening, like a Twitter-like trail which is happening, which is available on your mobile devices as well as laptop, which captures all these emails and phone calls. Instead of that, you tweet with each other within the organization, so warehouse guy or even across the organization, so with your organization. So all these details, the phone calls and emails, instead of that, if you tweet within, then so that's the technology which is evolving, which most of the providers of the software solutions are getting into. Mine certainly is into that, but I think pretty much that's the future of the enterprise application. So that's going to come. One point which he came across is also very important, that the integration is integration between different systems, whether automation system to your ERP or a supply chain system or different supply chain systems per se, is a reality of life. So one has to choose the solution which is best fitted for that, and yes, we have to evaluate our system integration partner in such a way that they can enable that integration to happen. Then it will succeed, otherwise it will not succeed. So these are some of the thoughts and summing up. But the technologies are available which can transform, and we can exploit and transform it into a next generation supply chain. That's what the takeaway I can take from that for you. Now, can we put this session open for the questions if anybody has?
Yeah, I am Arvind Sharma from Wrigley. So I agree that for supply chain we have so many tools and things available. But what I think there is a gap. Like most of the companies, they are using SNOP, even SNOP plus, or integrated business process. SNOP plus and IBP is the same thing. So what is happening? Like I think the thing which is missing is synergy between sales planning or demand planning and supply planning. For supply planning, we have tools, but I think for sales planning, those tools are somewhere missing. What, as Tankeshwar rightly said, that forecast accuracy is the biggest challenge which supply planners are facing nowadays. Like if in ERP like SAP throws the demand it throws the production plan requirement, procurement plan requirement, even dispatch plan requirement. But and I will add one thing: even if forecast accuracy is correct, but in India sales happens mostly on weekends, so phasing is not correct. So we need to, I think, we need to prepare some tools which can make synergy between sales plan and supply plan, or some tools which can help
supply plan as well as the sales plan as well as the financial plan. So I mean it links and it collaborates.
That is part of IBP, I think.
Yeah, so IBP, yes, what you are saying is correct.
SNOP plus.
SNOP process, so that it links and it allows, so if sales plan is not complete, in all these tools, the good tools, if the sales plan is not complete, then it will not it will not be signed off by the salesperson responsible. It will be escalated to CEO of the company, who generally chairs the SNOP meetings. So then it will the supply planning people, whether it is manufacturing or actually distribution planning, those people have to do. Now, if they do some planning which impacts the sales plan, then obviously it will be immediately notifying that. So there is some improvement, or new tools are coming up in those areas which actually link. Otherwise, these are two disjointed areas. That's what I think Tankeshwar touched upon.
Then I think to cover up your question of the skew that exists in that towards the weekend or the month end. So what is happening of late is that people are actually not forecasting the bucket of monthly basis. Now people have started forecasting the shorter buckets, the smaller buckets of 1 week or 3 days, so that it is more predictable. But then at the same time, your back end, the supply side of it also has to be so flexible that you are able to actually accommodate the changes that would happen in that shorter bucket. So that is another kind of way of looking at it, and also kind of mitigate these issues of the skew. Yeah, please.
That's a very old nerve actually when I was on the user side. So sales forecasting, what is the sales forecasting? It is predicting what the buyers will buy in the next coming time. Historically, it's been done on the historical data. What's the data of the past year, and then you put some trends, seasonal, etc. But this is a topic which we will not cover so much in this because it's a very large topic. Today in sales forecasting, you also have to see what the competition is doing, and a part of that something called big data, in terms of the noise on social media, what's actually happening, what's the buzz around, and what is your product, how it's going to be placed in the next few days. There are few things which actually help in making it faster. One is the typically the inventory at the end of production is still okay because you can convert it into various products. Inventory in this form is more favorable. Typically in our country, because of having different sales tax regimes, we've been used to having multiple warehouses and inventories got replicated. We have not been using the faster modes like air for transportation, using surface modes. So we have a built-up inventory at different levels. I think the lesson which we can learn on this forecasting is probably from the e-com company. The session is going on somewhere else, not here, because we have a longer supply chain from a plant to a state warehouse, from a state warehouse to a distributor, distributor to a dealer, and then to the end customers. That is why it becomes more difficult for us to know that. The classic beer gauge by P&G is a case in kind where how the actual things take a different kind of the bullwhip effect. It kind of makes a different kind of amplitude when it comes to the end, while nothing is there. Things were like normal, but they become amplified at the end. Let's look at the case studies of people how Walmart does. That's the point of sale data. And what Walmart does internationally, you see many of the automotive companies they're doing in India. They have the same software. The software, let us say, by an OEM is given to a dealer. Whatever he's retailing in his workshop, that is known to that company, and if he sells one, they replenish one. So I think again here also it's mainly the linkage of your supply chain with the last person in that queue and knowing the point of sale data. The day you know that as fast as possible and you can replace them in 8 hours, 15 hours, 24 hours, that is where the things will change. A very famous retailer in the world, in the last half a minute, is Zara. They ship internationally from Barcelona to every store twice a week by air. Centrally one location. And we would hesitate to do that from a Nagpur to rest of the country. We would feel that our transport costs will go up. Yes, they might go up, but the inventory carrying costs will come down, the markdowns would come down, and it would make our dealers and end much more profitable than they are now.
Also, you see, there is another aspect is that both these functions, when you see sales, or if you take procurement as we discussed, these are both both market facing typically. So there will be some amount of dynamism in the numbers that they have, and this is accentuated by the fact that in India typically compared to the West, because most examples are taken from the West, is that we have 9-10% kind of sales growth targets each year, you see, which is there, it's given, and you have 9-10% inflation also, you see. So the numbers keep swinging, you see. And now there is a great visibility on data per SKU. You see the price realization per SKU, the profitability per SKU, etc., etc. You see, which we didn't have. So it keeps changing. It keeps on changing. So supply chain has to go back and forth. That's why I was earlier discussing the mid-pillar concept. It will change. You see. So fix those things which you can fix, right? And wait for more data and greater stability for the others. So an example from a 1 or 2% inflation or a sales target kind of a thing in the West is not replicable. You see, we are forever going into new geographies. There are huge coverage targets also for sales. You know, go into so many more villages, or now since the towns and urban areas are cities are covered, so tier 2, tier 3, and thereabouts. So we will have this, and perhaps there is no need to. At the same time to fix everything, right? I think these are in that sense for supply chain people, personnel, very exciting times. Okay, as for the other functions.
Any other questions? Okay, I thank you, all of you, for attending to this session and patient hearing to us, and thank all my eminent panelists for their views, and I hope that the points of view shared are useful to you people. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think our moderator has gone ahead and thanked everyone.
So we would like to close the day, and once again, thanks for being with us. And we would like to go ahead and ask Mr. Nimesh Desai if he could go ahead and hand over the token of appreciation to all our panelists. Yeah, Mr. Tankeshwar Baishya, please. Thank you. Mr. Rakesh Shah. Mr. Jasjeet Sethi. Mr. Somit Mukherjee.